Good morning, everyone. My name is Walter West with GarageWorx, and you're watching Inside the Garage. Joining me today is Economic Development Manager Eric Van Otteren. Thank you very much for being here today, Eric.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, can you tell me a little about your background?
I can. My background, I use kind of titles for myself as a community builder and as an entrepreneur. So I've got 30 years in the community development arena, and I've used that in a variety of ways, from building housing to zoning and communities. And so I like to build communities, and so this position gave me the opportunity to further those skills further. I'm a graduate of Ohio State, so I'm a Buckeye, and I made it to the South as fast as I could. I like to tell people I wasn't born here, but I got here as soon as I could.
So, how long have you actually been working with the city of Snellville?
I've been working with the city of Snellville about 7.5 years now. It'll be 8 this fall. And when they hired me in 2010, it was in the kind of throes of the last Great Recession, we'll call it. And they hired me not knowing what they were doing.
Well, it sounds like you've been very successful in the business world and with entrepreneurship, and it sounds like that really prepared you for what your role is at the city of Snellville.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you tell me a little about how you're fostering community development and local businesses in the Snellville community?
Sure. I'm going to start with a little bit more answer to your previous question, which is how I got here. I've worked in the private sector for 10 years. I've had my own firm for a few years. I've worked for a state organization, a county organization. So all of those things kind of prepped me for coming here and then knowing kind of what small business needs. Small business is a passion, one of my passions. And so as I came to Snellville and looked around as to what Snellville could do and could be, my favorite list that I use is Snellville is, we don't have a mountain, we don't have a beach, we don't have a lake, and we don't have an I-85. So what do? And that's how I landed on entrepreneurship for this city. And the other title I use for myself is an entrepreneur. So I like to innovate inside large organizations. And so that's kind of the skills I bring to Snellville. As they hired me 7 years ago, the director then saw, the city manager then saw that I had the skills to kind of figure out what Snellville needed, and I had the skills to kind of build a community, and that's what they wanted to do.
Well, Snellville is absolutely the perfect place for that, because it's such an economic development focus and a small business focus. I mean, you can see it when you're driving around this area, like 124. You can see all the businesses that are coming up, and it's just, you're in the perfect place for it to foster that kind of business community. So, how has helping to start GarageWorx, like having a business incubator in this community, really kind of helped foster that economic growth?
Sure, good question. And the way that kind of works, I'm going to start again kind of back when I started with Snellville. When I started with Snellville, I looked around the community to say, you know, what is Snellville? And there's a lot of retail here. Most of our large employers are Walmart and Home Depot and the big names you would know.
Right.
We do not have a lot of big companies here, like if you looked on 85 North. So most of our companies here are small. So at that point in time, I went to the city manager and I said, I think Snellville is small business. We're the small engineering firms, architect firms, accounting firms, all of those little small guys. But we're not many of them yet. Mostly Snellville grew up in Gwinnett County as a bedroom community, and we sent all of our workers out someplace else to work. So the key for GarageWorx as we come to the current time is trying to create more and more of those small professional firms. And technology obviously is an exciting one today. Everybody's doing that, so to speak. So we've been looking for ways to not only recruit technology in the small firms, create an environment where that flourishes, but also retain some of those high-skilled workers that go out of Snellville in the community, because then their commute is 10 minutes rather than 50.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the best things about GarageWorx is having just a business incubator here, so that our local entrepreneurs can come in, can work here, when they need to go out for lunch or something like that, they can go out around here locally and support other local businesses as well. Sounds Sounds like it's perfect.
It is a really good match, and that match kind of grew up out of our early efforts. We had a lot of strong entrepreneur efforts in the beginning. We've got a strong program of entrepreneurship development at the high schools. Our 3 local high schools produce entrepreneurs out of them every year. And then we've done some business development things with that. So GarageWorx was a natural kind of outgrowth of those early efforts here in the community, like I said, because we weren't all those things that we were. So we have to be small business.
Right. I had heard that the Brookwood cluster specifically is very entrepreneurial focused with all the entrepreneurship programs that students can take a track on if they would like to. So I guess that's just another way that the city is kind of fostering entrepreneurship and business here.
Absolutely. In general, the reason I went to the high schools first to do entrepreneurship is who has the least amount of risk or amount to lose if it fails. And high schoolers are still with their mom and dad, so if they fail, they've just lost a little bit of money they put into it. They don't have a wife and kids asking them where their next meal is going to come from, right? But Brookwood is kind of my current hero. They have now a K-12 entrepreneurship program, so their kindergartners are starting to learn entrepreneurship skills.
Wow.
They have to do job definition. They have to interview for the jobs in the classroom. They have to earn the money. They have to create all the things that we would think of as an entrepreneur today, but they're doing it at 5 instead of whatever we are, age-wise. And then that goes all the way up through the high school. The other really cool thing that Brookwood's doing, and we can talk back about Snellville again, but I like it, is Brookwood is doing what they call dual classes now. So a young person who's in high school comes into that class and they get a credit in entrepreneurship. Actually, they get a credit in marketing, but we call it entrepreneurship. But they also get a credit in language arts. They might also get a credit in math. And what a better way to learn. I mean, I wish I had learned math through some other skill than just a teacher telling me, you got to learn math. You know, for a young person to say, I'm going to learn math because I want to learn how to run my own business and make sure the bottom line is positive, that's a great way to learn math.
Absolutely. It looks like it's taking a much more real-world applicable focus to kind of educating students, which nowadays is just so important, especially with how competitive the job market and things like that are.
Well, and like us today, I mean, I had one principal tell me we finally learned that the kids want to, do stuff that's real world, and I said, I wish you'd learned that 30 years ago. I mean, we all want to do stuff that has an impact, that's relevant, and so whether you're a high schooler or you're a young entrepreneur or you're an older entrepreneur like me, we're trying to do stuff that's relevant. That's what GarageWorx is all about, is trying to bring something to the community that is relevant, that will retain our high-skilled workers, that gives them a place where they can have a 10-minute, 15-minute commute rather than an hour commute, because we've got some that commute quite a ways from here. And that gives our community a good base of folks here. And a goal of ours is to retain young people. So technology is young people, mostly.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds like the city is very, very focused on the future in retention of students, of entrepreneurs, and that makes me pose the question, where do you see the future of the city of Snellville and our school system really going in the next 5 to 10 years in regards to business and entrepreneurship?
Okay, so I'm going to leave the school system to somebody else because there's a lot of people out there with brighter minds than mine in that department. But for the city, that's my favorite question to answer. We are on the cusp of building a town center. So the first piece of that is what we call a library market building that the city is going to build. We have an old library in town, so we're going to bring the old library from the edge of town into the middle of town and build a new library, what I like to call a 22nd century library. So I'm challenging our designers to figure out what a 22nd century library looks like, because we can't look at a library today and know what we're going to have in a library in even 10 years. That's what they tell me, is the use of a library is changing dramatically, which is interesting, because, and a little anecdote to chase, but it wasn't that long ago that we went to the library and got books. And then it was only a few years after that, more recently, that we didn't go to the library to get books anymore because we could do Kindle and our smartphones and all of that. The new trend now that people are doing is they want to go back and read books, and they're back to the library picking out books. And so what is, even 5 years from now, they're having a hard time. But what they do know is they want to create spaces in the library that are flexible so they can move. They do know they need, now just like we're learning in retail, you need both. You need online and the book they can pick out. So we're going to bring in the new library and design it. The second floor, or we're still discussing what it exactly might be, a separate building. but we want to build a municipal market. And I'll give a little plug for the Sweet Auburn Curb Street Market. That's the kind of market that we want to build. Something that is, again, supportive of our entrepreneur environment, supportive of our young people and old people that want to have a shot at something. So the market is 400 to 800 square foot bays that they can rent fairly cheaply. Pilot a project, see if it'll work, any kind of a retail thing you could want to sell. And then the third floor, and this GarageWorx kind of comes in here again, the third floor, or the second floor on the second building, is going to be about 25,000 square feet of unprogrammed space where we hope GarageWorx will land, where we hope we will land a partnership with our schools, back to our schools, where we can have that out-of-campus experience for our young people in our high school so they can do, because again, what we were talking about earlier, they want to do stuff that's relevant and they don't want to do it on the campus. They want to be out here with adults. They want to be thinking they're adults. And so we want to build a space for them that they can come, in essence, be adults and work with our businesses, start businesses, and all those kind of things. And then we are trying to build a relationship with a post-secondary education opportunity. Gwinnett Tech, Georgia Gwinnett College, Kennesaw College, something like that, Kennesaw University, something like that, that would also be in that space. So to me, that building is the beginning of our future. Think how cool that is if you have a library on the first floor, market on the second floor, and students on the third floor from high school to whatever, because students today are of all ages. Or if you're a mom, you got mom with young kids, you come drop them off at the library. One of the things libraries are now is reading spaces for young children, and the nurses, or not the nurses, the librarians will read the kids a book for an hour, hour and a half. So young moms can drop off their kids, the librarian reads a book to them, they can go to the market, they can get a coffee, buy some flowers for their husband, right? Girls aren't the only ones that like flowers sometimes. Get a bar of soap, pick up a few things if they need it, and then maybe go up on the third floor and work on their business a while, and then they come back down and pick up their kid from story hour, and off they go, right? I mean, that's the kind of environment, at least in my mind, I'm seeing people want today, is they want a kind of an integrated environment between their work and their fun and their learning and their play. And then the town center, the larger development, will be about an 18-acre development that'll be mixed use, town centers, green space, so that we can do all the things all the other cool cities and towns are doing, like Alpharetta and Duluth and those places, so we can offer our people the reason to stay.
I am very familiar with those sort of lifestyle centers that are popping up all over the state now, such as Pont City and Sweet Auburn, Curb Market, and even, like you said, Alpharetta. And you're definitely correct. All of those places they're super popular and they're booming and they're great for the communities there. I mean, look at how the Avalon has really impacted that Alpharetta, Johns Creek community. Like, it's huge, and that's amazing to think that something like that is in the works for Snellville. So I can't wait to see what happens in the future for Snellville. Eric, I think we are about out of time, but before we close, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I think we've covered the good ground. I mean, you can see where Snellville is going. We've had partnership with GarageWorx, and our Downtown Development Authority is doing that. The town center, we've talked about all the pieces. Our goal as a city is to encourage small business and entrepreneur and innovative development and the entrepreneur mindset. And I'm always looking for ways to further those things.
And it sounds like you definitely are, and you have a lot in the works for the Snellville community, for sure. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Inside the Garage. This is Walter West with GarageWorx. Make sure and follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest post.